The Indian Supreme Court has a real headache now in making one of the most bold decisions in the history of Indian judiciary. And that's the right to marriage for the LGBTQ community. LGBTQ is the community for lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people. This community is currently fighting for their right to marriage and the case is on appeal in the Supreme Court. Welcome to Telangana Today and let us know about the petition made by the LGBTQ community in the Supreme Court in this video. The Supreme Court is actually holding the final hearing today regarding legalizing marriages between same-sex groups in India. This is a hope for many in the homosexual community. This might be the weird for some members of the public and this is totally opposed by the government. But this is the topic of discussion for the hour currently. Many LGBTQ couples are currently fighting and hoping to get the final judgment from the Supreme Court on their side. But this is not as easy as they think in the current scenario. Also, there are quite few chances for a positive result on their side too. While the Narendra Modi government and the heads of the major religious groups in India are opposing these legal marriages of homosexual groups, there are 18 petitions filed so far in the Supreme Court on the other side by the LGBTQ community for their right. The Supreme Court is currently considering this with D.Y. Chandrachud as the chief guest and a panel of 5 judges considering various factors and also putting the Special Marriage Act of 1954 into action. The Special Marriage Act of 1954 offers equal marriage rights for couples from different castes and religions. The same can be applied to the LGBTQ community now. According to statistics, the public's preference for homosexual marriage has increased significantly in the last 5 years. So far, 10% of Indians are opting for this, and the analysts say there are around 135 million people interested in these homosexual marriages. What all can be considered by the Supreme Court judge panel before making any decision? The Indian government had earlier granted a few rights to transgender people in 2014. The constitutional rights were added in 2017. Also, the gates were opened to decriminalize gay sex and atypical families in 2018 and 2022 respectively. Now, the Indian judiciary is going to write another new chapter for the homosexual group with the judgment from the Supreme Court about marriages. India will be the second Asian country to encourage same-sex group marriages if the judgment is on their side. India will also be the 35th country worldwide on this list. The Supreme Court also needs to look at a few things when approving marriages between people of the same sex. Parenthood, inheritance, alimony, divorce, and numerous civil rights issues are all going to come into play with this petition. The Supreme Court also needs to respect the words of the Indian government, which has questions about the social conservation structure. The religious leaders also add their opposition by questioning the marriage concept, the natural family order, and the Indian family system. They also raise the doubts that the children, family and society will be negatively affected by this. Keeping the government and religious groups aside, what does the general public think? 37% of Indians are extending their support to legal marriages of the same sex. This boosts the hope and fight of the homosexual community much more for their fundamental rights. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court asked the police to provide security to couples of the same sex whenever needed, as they were being attacked in several parts of the nation. IPS. The Indian Psychiatric Society is also extending its support to the homosexual community for a better life. However, the arguments from both the government and the LGBTQ community will end in the Supreme Court by Thursday. Let's see in whose favor the final judgment is going to come. Which side will you take in this debate? Comment with your opinion below and subscribe to Telangana Today to know more about such interesting topics.